Welcome to episode 134 of Star Wars and Scotch. It's Tim, it's Kevin, and we're not alone! Because Pete from Around the Galaxy is here.
Hey, what's up, boys?
What?
Wait,
don't worry about
why
it.
did
Hey,
you
Pete,
say it like that?
How are you doing? Good to see you again.
I'm glad to be here. I hope I'm not stepping in the middle. Jeez, that sounded like
no.
there's a little bit of aggression happening there.
Yeah, we have marital strife all the time.
Well, I mean, you're in the middle of playing a GCX. You got a lot of pressure going on. I get it. It makes sense.
And Diablo came out, so like, where's my free time? It doesn't exist. My wife has been on me because we started a new documentary together. And like, she's like, are you bringing the laptop to the couch again? I said, yep, I am not getting left in the dust this time. I stopped streaming and I want to keep up with my friends so I can play with my friends. So I'm even though I'm not streaming anymore, I'm still level 41 rogue. So I feel like I'm doing a good job. Stabby stab. And Pete's jumping into it after this. He just let us know.
Yes, I can't wait.
So, yeah. But it's not Diablo and Scotch. It's Star Wars and Scotch. So we will
honestly, I wouldn't want it to be Diablo and Scotch. The lore of Diablo is intense.
Yeah,
it is wild. It's dark and it's very, very intense. There's a lot
coming from you. That says a lot too, because you're into that crazy.
I like lore, but like listening to all the stuff that happened before the games, there's a lot of build up to just before the first game, and then everything happens in the 3 games that goes on, and then the stuff that happens in this game.
Did you watch the YouTube video they put out?
Yeah,
that's crazy shit.
Mm-hmm. We just had on Around the Galaxy, we had Deborah Wilson, who is Seer from Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, but she's also Prava in Diablo, which I did not know.
It is her. I thought that was her voice. Yes. Thank you for confirming that.
So we have a little clip up on the site, not to plug myself immediately, but there's a little couple minutes clip where she talks about how she found the whole story for Prava, because the writers didn't give it to her. She was like, so why do I have sort of a Eastern European accent? And they're like, we don't know. And she found it and she built it, and she's really an interesting character. Deborah Wilson, that is, but she really, it was an interesting story. Check it out. I don't want to.
And where can people listen to that, Pete?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you guys asked. Around the Galaxy is part of what we call the SSW network, and on youtube.com/@the SSW network, we have clips from Around the Galaxy. And also we do our live Friday night show there called Forced Connect. So you can hang out, call into our show and things like that. So that's that. Thank you for asking.
Love it.
Of course. And I'm going to ask you again at the end, so be ready.
I'll be ready.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. You had Deborah. I find it hilarious that she once again had to play like a either a former or current pious religious person. And I was like, that sounds like Deborah Wilson, but I never IMDb'd it, because once I'm in game, I'm in game. I'm running around. I'm not like looking stuff up. So, and I know Lorath is what's his face, that guy whose voice, I forget his name. He's very early in the game. You'll meet him, Pete. But he I
keep on thinking it's Andy Serkis.
No, he's been in so much stuff. He's that guy with that voice. Lorath. Ralph Ineson. Ralph Ineson. Yes, you recognize him as soon as you see him. You're like, oh, that guy's in everything here.
That guy.
He's got that voice, like he smokes 3 packs of cigarettes.
Sounds like Andy Serkis.
He's like deeper and more growl.
Sounds like Snoke.
He's deeper than Snoke too.
Well, he's cooler than Snoke, I'll tell you that.
Anyway, we could talk about Diablo all day, but that's
Diablo
what
and
stream is
Scotch.
for. So yeah, if you do want to talk about Diablo, just go to fb.gg/darkness429, because that's where I go to talk about Diablo until I finish the damn story. Well, now that you're done, I can pop back in. So yeah, go to Tim's channel. But before we get going, we do want to remind you, kingscoastcoffee.com. Barrel Age sold out very quickly again, so that was great to see. So we would love to maybe you want to see what else is out there, because people were messaging us like, is Barrel Age still available? And we were like, no, it's not, because you waited. I saw someone chat.
Yeah, someone asked me today.
Yeah. And it's like, no, that stuff goes quick. So kingscoastcoffee.com, make sure you're part of the Kings Club and the mailing list. Get signed up so you get all of the offers before everybody else.
You know what also goes fast? That went fast? Premier tickets. GCXevent.com. We still have normal tickets available. So
Yes.
August 4th and the 5th, Orlando, Florida.
There are
versus
ticket
Eagle Creek Resort.
packages that make a lot of sense financially. So if you're looking to do all of the things, make sure you buy a ticket package because it really helps.
There you go.
So make sure you package it all together. That means you get to go to the comedy show. That means you get to go to Universal and do all of the fun things in one shot. So gcxevent.com/tickets. We signed a few more people up for meet and greet. We had an exciting one today that we confirmed. So there's more announcements coming.
Mark Hamill.
I freaking wish. Damn.
His retirement party, his Star Wars retirement party is going to be at GCX.
The thing that stinks is he always thumbs up posts when people are like, will you come to GCX, Mark? And da-da-da-da-da. And he'll always like the post. And I'm like, don't like it. Just take action, Mark.
And Kevin will
Take action.
screenshot it and be like, Tim, look, he liked it.
He liked the post.
liked
Because
it.
I get an alert. So yeah, gcxevent.com/tickets. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a good time. He can't come because he's got a show with his band, Tim. How cool is that?
I know we talked about this last time, and that's so dope.
Yeah, I was. I got to say, I was disappointed because it's one of our bigger gigs of the year. So I was like, can I back out? I really can't. So, but I will be watching GCX from afar, and just like last time I was on the show, promising I'll come next year, and we'll make that happen. So,
I gave you the dates in DM, so you should know. Yes, there are
Excellent.
dates for next year. People
I will
listening
hold those dates for sure.
What kind of music does your band play out of sheer
Yeah, it's
curiosity?
Oh, we play the worst possible music. It is I kid you not, the way I describe it is stuff that 8 out of 10 songs I'd probably turn off if it came on just a random play. It's like 70s and 80s rock. It's bar rock. It's
Bar
the
rock,
stuff that
okay.
I mean, it's not the stuff that I listen to, which is funny, but I just love
Hold
playing.
on. You play music that you don't listen to?
I play music that I don't listen to. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm more of a like a 90s, 2000s metal head, 80s metal kind of stuff. And nobody wants to see a 50-year-old guy playing heavy metal in a bar. So
Speak
I
for
mean, maybe
yourself.
but it's the cool thing is, as much as like most of these songs I would turn off the radio if I was listening to a radio. But people like them. I mean, people drink at a bar and they hear a ZZ Top song come on and they're like, all right, and they're happy. So it's all good. That was probably the most mature learning for me as a musician, was like, you can either play what you love or what the people watching you love. And it's a lot more fun when the people watching you love what you're playing than sort of ignoring you. So, but anyway, it's bands and Scotch tonight. Diablo and Scotch. Bands and
Diablos and
Scotch.
banding and Scotch.
What's funny is we used to be like, we have to stay on Star Wars, and then people were saying like, no, we want to hear more about like you and your guests and the things you do. So that's why we ask. But
That's
we'll
cool.
dive into Star Wars now for the diehards that were like, get to the point.
Why aren't they talking about Star Wars?
Oh man, I love
Seriously,
it.
it's why I'm here.
You start a stream in the morning, you're sipping some coffee, talking to chat, and it's just like,
Are you
What
gonna
game
play
you
games
playing?
soon?
it's just like, dude, it just went live. It was like,
Yeah, but
Like-
video games?
Call of Duty, Fortnite.
yeah,
What are you doing today?
and dude, it just went live.
I don't want to watch this Debibble game. Can you play Call of Duty? So first item on our list, Star Wars Shatterpoint released on Friday, I believe it was. New tabletop game, which Tim refuses to play with me, apparently, as he told me right before we
I didn't
went
say
live.
that. I just said, Kevin, I have a hard time committing to multiple tabletops.
Because he's getting coerced into Warhammer 40K right now.
Okay, the
But
most that I've done is looked at different armies and maybe committed to one. That's as most.
you're
that I've
gonna
done.
pick the Necrons because you're an edgelord.
I'm not gonna be a Necron. I'm gonna be. I was looking at Tyranid because I love playing Zerg and StarCraft,
true.
so I thought that'd be
Yeah,
really
it's-
fun. But here's the thing. Okay, here's the
Also
thing with Star
edgy.
Wars tabletop. Sounds really cool. It looks neat, but like, what are we gonna do? We just gonna like, are we gonna tabletop sim this, or like, do you want to like sit down and actually like paint Star Wars models? Like,
So these come pre-designed.
then
This
what's
is
the
not.
point?
Well, they have legions if you want the Warhammer experience. These are pre-designed and you buy packs, which is essentially like DLC. They have different terrains you can do, different armies you can build and whatnot. So it's a 90-minute game. It is not a Warhammer.
Oh, see, that's good.
For 8 hours.
See, like that's
play
more.
this.
Crap.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
Crap.
No, okay, but hold on. So where's the fun in it though?
Name a day that you have 8 hours to sit down and play a board game.
I
Tim.
don't have that time.
Pete, you also have a job. Do you have a day and children? Do you have a day that you can play for 8 hours?
No, I don't. I mean, when you said 90 minutes, suddenly I was more
Sounds
interested.
far more attractive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It says the average game is around 90 minutes. They have a core set that includes 16 miniatures, 23 different terrains, 2 movement tools, 5 range tools, 14 order cards, 14 unit stat cards, 12 stance cards, 1 mission card. I could keep going, but they have a bunch of that. And then they have, they list out the miniatures actually in that set too, which will be more interesting to everyone. So 6 B1 battle droids, 2 Mandalorian super commandos, Lord Maul, Asajj Ventress, Kalani, Gar Saxon, Rex, Bo-Katan, Anakin, Ahsoka, 2 troopers from 501st, and 2 Clan Kryze Mandalorians. So that's the starter set.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second. Asajj Ventress is showing up in every single game lately. She's in Villainous. I just got I did a preview of the Funko tabletop card game.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the characters in that. She's in this, but she's not on the screen yet. So it's got to be like they got to be tipping their hand towards something. She's got to be coming back in some way. But anyway, sorry. I'm kind of a fan of Asajj Ventress, but it's cool that she's in this game.
I didn't know that she gets her ending in a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know how that all went down until I talked about it on stream one day.
Otherwise, we'll be speculating about her showing up at Ahsoka, but no, she's definitely
that's why I brought that up, because I wanted to make sure that we didn't get the people and like, hey, do you think Ventress is going to show up? I'm like, let me just want to make sure that she's been laid to rest. She's very dead.
I'm doing my 8-year-old son Pete is doing his first Clone Wars watch through, and we're up to like Witches of Dathomir and stuff with her. So we just did the episode. Where they resurrect the undead Dathomirian army. And my daughter is 4, and she's at the kitchen table on her iPad. And my son gets up and he looks over at her to make sure she's not watching, because he's like, "This is creepy." I was like, "I know they told me it was a show for kids, but you know,
it's cartoons."
It's for kids. No, he's loving it. He's hooked now. I told you just have to kind of roll with it. And then when we found Maul, even my wife, we were making breakfast the other morning, and it was the episode where Savage finds Maul, and my wife's like, "That's Darth Maul," and I was like, "Yeah, that's what Obi-Wan did to him," which is why you get Kenobi.
I don't know if I told you guys this last time I was on, and I'm sorry if I'm taking this way off topic, but you're talking about Clone Wars and your kid. So my son is 10 years old, and I say this all the time. Like, the great thing about Star Wars and what's going on is there's so many different doorways. So my son's Star Wars is Clone Wars. That's what he came in on. Like, his Han, Luke, and Leia are Cody, Fives, and Rex. And so, and it's funny because he's seen all the movies, but he hadn't really registered them. He saw them pretty early. So Order 66 didn't really mean much to him. So we're watching season 7. Have you watched season 7? I want to make sure that. So, okay.
Wars? Oh yeah.
Okay. So we get to season 7. He's watching it. And when Order 66 happened, his jaw dropped. He was literally like, he turned white. And I felt kind of bad. I was like, well, I should have kind of warned him. But like, all his good guys turned into bad guys in a split second. And I didn't realize that he wouldn't have thought about that based on, having seen the movies or whatever. He didn't make that connection. So to me, it's so fun. And it's great to hear that your 8-year-old is coming in through Clone Wars, because they're great stories. And I mean, imagine starting your Star Wars journey there and then going out. So
it's such a different entry point, and Tim's son is doing the same thing. Tim's son is 3; he'll be 4 soon. And,
Tyler's 3, and we're introducing him to the Star Wars Gold books. And like the 5-minute stories, that was his like introduction to Star Wars. My kid's weird. He enjoys encyclopedias, and so we bought him a Star Wars encyclopedia, and like he would ask me to just pick out a thing, a planet, a place, a person. And he'd ask who that is and what it is and where it's from. So I would say like Maz Kanata, from Takadana, from all these things. And so like he likes that. And now he's getting into the High Republic with the Young Jedi series, which is great. He knows all the characters. He's watched all the episodes. So like that's essentially like his gateway to the show, because that and Mando, he'll watch Mando. And he watched Bad Batch. It was the craziest thing. He'd get up and this 3-year-old would be like, all right, Bad Batch time. And he'd sit through Bad Batch, and then sit through Mando, and then he'd ask for more Star Wars. So like, that's my kid.
That's
awesome. Did you know Nubs is D. Bradley Baker in Young Jedi Adventures?
Yes, I did. Isn't that crazy?
How funny. Like, Nubs doesn't say much. It's just hilarious. But hey, cool. D. Bradley. So back to Shatterpoint, though. So expansions include Witches of Dathomir.
That's cool.
Jedi Hunters.
Oh,
and this one, I don't know what it is. You Cannot Run Duel is the other one that's available for pre-order. Oh, that one includes Inquisitors, Vader, and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
So, and then, the big catch point that we talked about, Shatterpoint is a game for 2 players, recommended for ages 12 and up, with an average game duration of around 90 minutes. The core set starts at $165. So it's an investment, but it's definitely aimed at the people that don't want, and I know people are going to be like, Kevin, you can stop playing Warhammer and keep the board set up and come back the next day. And I understand you can save on virtual tabletop. I understand. This is for people who want to play in one sitting, 90 minutes, a strategy game. And it just seems more contained. It looks like it's, roughly, based on what I'm seeing, like a 12 versus 12 when it comes to moving figures around the board and whatnot. So I'm interested. I might invest in it. I'm very into, as I get older, I'm getting more into tabletop games. So
I think the pieces look cool. Like that's what I like. What was it?
Very good.
Was it the X-Wing? What was it called? The X-Wing? What was the game with the ships? That was the tabletop.
That was called, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tabletop game.
Yeah, the only one
X-Wing Unified, was that it?
I don't know.
Oh, look at you with the ghost.
But this was the only piece I bought because it looked so great. Yeah, the ghost.
Like awesome.
And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll play the game. And then I was like, no, I'm not good, because then I'll be investing nonstop in this stuff. And so, and I have a helmet and pop obsession still. I'm one of the remaining pop obsessed people, I think. So.
No, there's still plenty of them out there. Well, my whole thing was I've always enjoyed Warhammer Fantasy from a lore perspective. 40K was never my jam, even though 40K is essentially just really, really dark Star Wars, like gory, bloody, horrible Star Wars. But my whole thing was, I'm a Lord of the Rings person too. So once they came out with those sets, I was like, oh, I could play this game and I could buy. So I have a bunch of the miniatures from that just on display that I bought just because, like they look cool.
Yeah.
These don't seem like you paint them. These seem like they come pre-packaged. I mean, they have Mandalorian. It looks like the Clan Kreese troopers are like mid-flight.
Mm-hmm.
So they have jetpacks and stuff like that and whatnot. So I think this is definitely more aimed at a casual, like this is something I probably get for me and my son. If Tim, you want to come over for a game of Shatterpoint, and it's a quick, have a drink, hang out, have a snack type of situation that you do in person. So I think that's the goal here.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah. I'm going to get you into Legions too. Don't worry. I was sending him all of the virtual tabletop stuff the other day, and he was like, oh boy, we're going down a rabbit hole. I'm like, I have been down this rabbit hole, Tim.
Can you Twitch feed tabletop games? Anybody doing that?
Yeah. Because what you can do is you get virtual tabletop on Steam, and then it just everything's in that environment, and then you both log in, and then you can stream it easily to that. You don't need camera; you just need capture at that point.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll send it if you want it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
be careful.
Yeah. I'm afraid.
Be careful. It's like
see, I have to get Pete off of Twitter. He talks to me on Twitter. Once you get off Twitter with me, you'll talk to me all the time. Twitter is like my last form of communication.
It's like welcoming a vampire into your house.
Thanks, Tim.
I think 90% of these addictions that I've ended up with been like started just like what you just heard. It was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Send it over. And then then it's over.
Now look at you. Look at your background, your helmets and collector items. I love your B1 on the wall.
Oh
yeah, I love the way it's mounted.
It's just like hanging out, just chilling behind you.
Yeah. He's there with the clone and those are fun. Those are fun.
What are the two Mando ones under Bo and Din?
It's Boba Fett, and then the other was whatever the Children of the Watch one was, but I put the J guys on it. I got a thing for decal that I put on it because
Speaking of
I
Clone
thought it
Wars,
looked cool.
we just watched the Death Watch episode, and he's
Oh,
like, "Is
yeah.
that Bo-Katan?" Because he's watched Mandalorian,
Yeah.
and I was
Right.
like, "Mm-hmm." And he's like, "Why is she with them?" And I was like, "Oh, you'll find out." So it's interesting. The entry points are so interesting for people because like they don't have the context we had.
Yep.
So
So
funny.
yeah,
And they've done a great job of making it so you can come in multiple places. It's not like, all right, so you come into Star Wars now and you know that Vader's Luke's father. It doesn't matter where you came in, but it's all right. It works out. You can find it. Bo-Katan is a good guy, but she's got a great backstory now. So go get that backstory. So
also, you know, Vader is Vader, but at the end of the day, that was the big thing. Like 20
Right.
years ago, that was the big thing. Like if someone hadn't seen Star Wars, that was the thing you tried to protect till they
Right.
got to that point.
Yep.
Now it's such I don't want to say insignificant, but it's a smaller piece of the puzzle in the grand
Right.
universe that's been built around it.
Yep.
So it's interesting. I remember when my daughter watched it for the first time. She's 19 now. Her jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." I don't know how we protected her from that for all those years, but we did. And then my son saw it and he was like, "Oh, all right." He was like 6. And it didn't mean much to him. And it's more like when Fives dies, he was like, "What
Yeah.
happened?"
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, you know," and then, you know, it's just things like that are affecting him more. And it's so interesting. He has if you go to Disney, I don't know if you've been to Galaxy's
Yep.
Edge.
Yep.
They have those packs with the figurines. They look like the ones from Shatterpoint.
Yep.
He's got a ton of them because my mother-in-law will go and you know, she'll be like, "Oh, I bought him a bunch of these." You're like, you know, that's the bad guys, right? Viv is what I call my mother-in-law. Viv, and she's like, "What? This is the bad guys?" And then she'll go back and get like, "Are these the good guys? Are they the good ones?" I'm like, "Yes, those are the good ones." Now
It's
they
a
can
really
fight
good
each other.
Vivian.
Yeah, I mean, she's got that New York accent. So
That's really
they he's got him. He'll just walk out of his room and put them all over the kitchen table. And then my daughter comes in and she's throwing Frozen and Jasmine and all them up there. And then it's like, you got Bo-Katan, Anna and Elsa, Mando, Boba against Venom somehow made his way in there the other day. He was a secret project of Moff Gideon that my son created. It was a whole thing. But it's just fun to watch them experience it. You know, when we were kids, it was like I had my Vader toy, I had my Boba toy, I had my Luke toy, and that was, you know, the characters. Now it's like so much more that they can play with and have fun with, and I think that's amazing. And now we're about to like blow the door open on High Republic, and that's going to be the new marketing opportunity. So I'm excited. Did you finish Cataclysm, Pete?
No, I haven't started it yet. I feel bad
I
about that,
haven't
but
finished it
I should read it.
I have like 7
It's
hours left. I have a
it's
long car
good.
ride on Thursday, so I'm gonna bang out like 4 hours of it.
Nice.
But it's a really, really, really good book. It's definitely one of the better ones in the High Republic series.
So you guys
Yeah,
got to
who-
be psyched for Acolyte then. I imagine.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, can't come soon
What-
enough.
we've asked a few people.
Yeah.
What do you think the show is about? Without any context from us, what do you think it's about?
I honestly, I have no idea, and I'll tell you why, and then I'll give what I've thought about. But like every Star Wars show has not let me rephrase that. Not a single Star Wars show has been what you thought it would be, right? Mandalorian,
100%.
Sure.
who knew?
Yeah.
Rebels is a Jedi story. What? How did that happen? So, I don't know. I think Acolyte's going to be. I think it's going to relate to Darth Plagueis somehow. It's a long shot, but I think it's going to tie to that. And because I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to close that whole Palpatine returned loop and kind of make a little more sense. So I feel like there's going to be a Plagueis connection there.
I still have hope that to canonize the Immortal Emperor at some point, even if it's in passing in something, that it'll be revealed that Palpatine learned what he learned from whatever name you want to call him, Vitiate, Valkorian, have at it.
Yep.
Since he had a ton. I'm hoping at some point we get there, especially with Old Republic looming. Another question we Tim and I have been asking guests, the Old Republic remake, now that it's confirmed to be back on track.
Yeah.
Canon, not canon. I say not canon. Tim, you were on the fence, right?
I'm on Team Canon.
I think
because
not canon.
So here's the thing is I think that they will. The reason why it's taken so long for this game to come out, they've been working on it for 3 years. and we're still trying to get this game out. I think what they've been doing is they've been going back and forth with Lucas to try to figure out what actually works within the overarching story and what doesn't. We haven't had an entry point into the Old Republic. We know the Old Republic is confirmed to be a part of the timeline. And like we saw the logo, we saw all that Star Wars Celebration, but we still don't have a piece of actual canon content that launches us into the High Republic or into the Old Republic. Currently, the oldest piece of content that we have is the High Republic.
Yep.
So I think what they're going to do is instead, like, why try to fix something that ain't broke? You've got a beautiful story. You have an amazing piece of just Star Wars history that's already been laid out for you. It's already there. Clean it up. Try to make sure that it flows perfectly into the story you're trying to tell with the High Republic, and let it be. You already have all these amazing characters that have so much history and lore behind them already developed. Why do you need to go and reinvent the wheel? So I think that is going to be our starting point for the Old Republic. I think like everyone is so emotionally tied to that video game. If it's not canon, if they don't bring and make Revan and Malak and they make all those canon, I think it's a big disservice to the Star Wars fandom.
Oh, we have breaking news.
Oh shit. Okay. I wish we had like an alert.
I mean, by the time they hear it, it's not breaking anymore. EA is nearing an agreement to move the ongoing development and operation of MMORPG Star Wars The Old Republic from BioWare to third-party studio Broadsword Online Games. According to sources familiar with the matter, Broadsword and EA have signed a letter of intent with the deal, which is not a final. It's basically a not even legal. It's a document saying this is what we intend to do. Yeah, like handshake, you can break a letter of intent. There's no legal ramifications. But with the deal expected to be finalized as soon as the end of this month, the agreement would see the Old Republic handed over to the current Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot developer Broadsword Online, which is run by former Mythic Entertainment co-founder BioWare VP Rob Denton, who previously worked on the. I was going to say Rob Denton worked on Old Republic back in the day. So basically, he's getting his baby. He's also the guy that brought Warhammer Online to life back when Mythic was. At one point, Mythic Entertainment was just supposed to make MMOs for EA until they realized that MMOs just cannibalize themselves and people can't play more than one at one time.
Yeah.
This is interesting because I feel like it again proves this game is not going anywhere, regardless of whether it's canon or not. And B, like handing it over to MMO experts means like somebody wants to keep investing in it, which is interesting. So that just came out like an hour ago. I just saw that.
They need to figure it out, though, because having fragmented timelines is very confusing.
Yeah, that's why.
Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say that's why I'm with you, Tim. I think I'm not at all surprised that, and I love your theory that it's because they've been trying to make the connection. And the fandom. You don't do things for the fandom. I hate to say that. People hate to hear that, but it's true. But one of the things, if they don't make this canon, it will really. It'll piss off a lot of people. It's far enough back in the timeline. You also have whatever movie that James Mangold is working on, which takes place way before that. So you're starting to maybe again with the connections. I think you put it back there. It's far enough back in the history. It's not going to mess up any of the current characters. It's not going to mess up anything that they're working on now. It might add a nice little layer to as a base for some of the High Republic stuff as well. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be canon. And I love your thought on that, Tim, that they've been taking their time because they're probably trying to make sure that there's nothing that they're disconnecting by doing it that way.
I hope. I need it.
I want it to be canon because
canon.
Those and if you saw the report, right, that they're not changing the story at all. They're just adding to it.
Yep.
That story is, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. That is one of the best video game stories ever told. Period. End of sentence.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Yep.
It is one of the best stories that we've ever told through the medium of video games. So to canonize that, and again, canon is a relative word. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You can enjoy the story whether it's canon or not.
Right.
But to bring it into the larger Star Wars universe and the ramifications that has to future content is a big deal. So I hope you're both right. I just feel like they would have to change some things to make it that way. And if they're saying like we're keeping the story the same, canonizing someone like Jolie Bindo, who's one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, please, like I want that. But then you have the problem of little things like the Grey Jedi controversy and canonizing something like that, because in that game they call themselves Grey Jedi.
Well, I mean,
So you'd
but
have to
again, like
change that.
they could change that.
Right.
You know, they could call it a wayfinder, or you know, they could call it something else, and that
Well,
would make sense.
maybe there's something that comes out of Acolyte that has that sort of middle ground that they can, you know, and maybe that's what's holding it up. They're like, don't finish all your voice work until we give you this new phrase or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just there's so much there, and it was so weird for them to officially like recognize it as a part of the official timeline, and we still don't have a piece of content that is official other than Revan being mentioned in episode 9.
Yep.
That's it. The only thing
And
we got.
it wasn't even a mention. It was like you had
Just
to
his
go
name.
into the book.
Yeah, you had to go into
about the
find it.
movie to see
Yep.
the name. And I'm fine with that. Like I love stuff like that. That's just cool. I did the same with Darth and Deadu. That, but you know, and it kind of links to the next thing we want to talk about before we take a break, which was I had sent the other day. Pete, did you ever play Galaxies back in the day when it was out?
I did. I spent many hours when that first came out, trying to build my little.
Chad is trying to get me to download this and play it.
So Galaxies is interesting because it's before my time of MMOs. My intro to MMOs was Lord of the Rings Online, which was right when WoW hit its stride. And then I jumped to WoW because everyone was like, when Lord of the Rings Online came out, it was between WoW expansions. It was between Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. So everyone at my guild that I worked at when I worked at Best Buy was like, we're going to try the Lord of the Rings game. Do you want to try it? So that was my intro experience. Then when they announced Wrath of the Lich King, they're like, we're all jumping back to WoW. Are you coming with us? And I was like, I've never played it. And they were like, well, come on over. And then I was hooked. So my experience with Galaxies was always asking them, like, should we play Galaxies? They're like, no. Because by that time it was ruined. I'm doing air quotes for the audio listeners by the update that everyone said when it was too easy to become a Jedi. So I didn't have any experience with it. My only experience with it has been on private servers. And Tim and I had this conversation via text the other day when I sent him the YouTube video that I put in there, which was basically like, it's very hard to get into it now without the nostalgia bug whispering in your ear.
Yeah.
You know, as a new IP, if you will. So as someone who's played it, knowing that it's in a good place with no commitment, obviously, Pete, like how does it make you feel knowing that it's in a good place? Do you have that little thing like, maybe I'll go back and give it a whirl and download it?
I can't tell you how many times I've thought, like even this conversation, like the little itch is there. It's like, I could download it. I could start playing it again. So, but I'm glad it's available. But I don't see myself getting to it. But again, to answer your question, yeah, I think it's good that there's still, I love that there's people who are still so into it that they're building into it. They're you know, modding it and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's cool that it exists, and I don't know that they really need to do anything else with it though. That's just kind of my feeling. But yeah, I mean, I played
modding community, well, I should say this, development communities will always add to a game. We've seen it like rescue a lot of it's all live service games. It's not obviously I shouldn't even say that because like look at Skyrim and Morrowind and all those games too. People go nuts over those. But live service games tend to get saved in one fashion or another. You know, I played Warhammer Online, the Return of Reckoning, I think it's called, server for many years. Galaxies, I've tried to get into it. I think I've tried 3 times.
Yeah.
But because I don't have any formal experience in it, it seems daunting. It seems dated. It seems like, you know.
Well, it definitely feels dated. Yep.
Yeah. If I was in it with like if the 3 of us one day were like, we're going to jump in at the same time, vastly different experience in my opinion. But then it's
overwhelmed.
But it's a time sink at that point. Like you have to align the time to play with your friends at the same time. And it, you know, at our age, it's a little bit difficult to do that, you know. And Tim, while there are games that come along like Diablo, where Tim will play them after hours, as I caught him doing last night. I texted him at it was like 9:00, and I was like, I see you online playing Diablo, Tim.
It was while Amy was putting the baby to bed.
I'm just map clearing while Amy puts the baby to bed. I'm like, sure, I'm sure. But but you know, putting aside that time at our age is different than we were in our 20s when you had that time to like, I'm not going to bed tonight. I'll just fucking show up to work tomorrow morning and hope for the best, which is what I did many times with WoW raids and things like that.
that's what I did with
Oh.
Galaxies. I remember being up there at 2, 3 in the morning and being like, I got to get up in a couple hours. I got to
Even
stop.
when SWTOR first launched, when it was supposed to be the WoW killer, I was in a guild. I remember I was in a guild with a bunch of it was called emergency response. So it was EMTs, cops, firefighters, military people. Somehow I ended up in this guild. I have no idea. And all great people. But I remember doing the raid when the raid was broken, the first one, and we were only getting 11 FPS and everyone was getting really pissed. But I remember for those first 2 months, like investing that time. And I had a child at the time. Like my daughter's 19 that now, like I said before, I had a child at the time. But still, I was like, I don't want to lose this experience because you only get one shot in those experiences. Like,
yeah. Yep.
And I learned that from WoW. Like you only get one, this moment in time is going to happen now. And, we see things like WoW Classic and all of these reboots and things like that. You never capture the feeling, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
You will never capture the feeling of being there in that moment. So
Heck, even people have that with Call of Duty right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, with Halo.
It's only a couple of years. They're just like, bring back Verdansk. It's never the same. It's just like, that was 3 years ago, guys. Come on. Like, I can understand if it was like 15 years ago, but good Lord.
the Halo lobbies going offline. I get those videos on TikTok all the time. Like the day the Halo 3 lobby went offline, people are like, oh, it's after the time. Maybe we get one more match. Then it cuts, says like Xbox Live has been disconnected. So, you only get those moments once. So even if you were to go back to Galaxies, let's say tomorrow, you're still not going to, it's not going to feel the same as it did at that time.
No, it's not. And like there's people who have been playing it for decades, right? Literally. It's
never
like
stopped.
There's just no way to, and again, to your point, I think it'll feel dated. I think that's the thing too. Like I find when I play video games, whether it's Diablo or Jedi Fallen Order or whatever game, like I'm always trying to find something magic about it. Or then you go back and you play a game that you love. Like my favorite game of all time favorite game, Half-Life 2. Love that game.
Oh yeah.
But I know if I played it again today, I'd be like, okay, it's cool, because your gaming experience advances a little bit, and as much as they're keeping these games alive, like Galaxies, they're keeping it alive as it was back then. Yeah, it looks a little different, and there's been some updates and things like that, but it's going to play much different than any other game that you're playing right now, and it's not going to. And that's part of where that magic's going to disappear, because you're going to be. It's like when you watch a movie that you loved 20 years ago. This movie, like Hellraiser, was like, I love that movie, and then I watched it about 5 years ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't watch this movie.
Age well.
It did not age well. So, yeah, I mean, again, but to your point, to answer your question directly, I'm really glad it exists for people that love it, and I love that there's a community that just is keeping it going, and that's awesome. And if I was still playing it after 20 years or whatever, I'd be happy as hell. So,
yeah, I mean, again, what I do every time with Galaxies is I see a video like this, I download it to my computer, I log in, I get overwhelmed after 3 hours. Now, Tim, you might have a different experience, and I'm not saying play it today because there's too much going on right now in the gaming world, but the next time you have a lull, might be worth a download, but you'll have chat telling you what to do. I don't have that anymore.
right.
So it's like figure it out or go find a YouTube video that walks you through it situation.
I'm such a
So I would say,
like I see the graphics. I'm just like,
which is the problem, because you just finished Survivor. And did you finish the bounties, by the way, Pete? Before I say what I'm about to say,
I got most of them, but let's go for it. I know
keep my mouth shut.
Well, but
finish the bounties.
Yeah.
so good.
I repeat, finish the bounties.
Okay.
Text me when you finish the bounties, and you'll be like, "Thank you for telling me to finish the bounty." That's all I'm going to say.
All right.
But you have experiences like that.
Yep.
And then you go to a game like this, which is a sandbox, which is amazing because you get to kind of fly around the universe, Star Citizen style, Tim, like that. And but again, it's dated. So it's this weighted system of what do I value more in this scenario type of deal. Yep. So it's rough. It's to make that decision. But the next time, you have that downtime, it might be worth a day, because you play DayZ. DayZ's dated as all hell too. So, it might not be a bad jump in, or, especially if you have chat or someone else diving in there. we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna pay some bills. We'll come back. We're gonna talk about Ahsoka, and I got one other question to ask Pete about video games.
Ooh.
And we are back. All right, my only question before we dive into Ahsoka.
Yes.
The Ubisoft game that has not been announced. Ubisoft's presser is on Monday of next week. Monday of next week. We're expecting to see something. Are you expecting anything? Is there any expectation on what that is and how it'll play out?
It's funny. I have, I'm sorry you set it up before the break. I have no real thoughts on it other than I just can't wait to see it. And I think we'll get, what I think we'll probably get is just an official announcement. Maybe we'll get what do you think? We'll get a title, maybe? Do you think?
God,
I'm hoping we get something more than a title. Like,
you think
we've been
so?
told about this game. Yeah, we've been told about this game now. I think it's going on 2 years or a year. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And the leaks have been rolling, man. So like everyone I don't know if they're real or not, but the amount of people that have said that it's going to be this open world game, that it's going to be like No Man's Sky, that it's going to be like this smooth transition from planet to star up into space, and you got all these different systems. So,
and they're saying 24 for release, right? That's the rumor.
They're saying early Q1 24.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, we might get some, maybe at least a cinematic trailer, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Ubisoft also needs a win too. So
they do.
Yes, they do.
They're hurting hard.
Even my 10-year-old will be watching like YouTube shorts or something. I'll be like, Ubisoft. Pff. I'm like, you're 10, dude. Like that's not good for the brand. So
I don't think Assassin's Creed landed the way they expected on the PlayStation show. I'm gonna say it, like, I think we have Assassin's Creed fatigue. As someone who's a huge fan of the franchise, Valhalla was kind of like convoluted. That's the best way I can put it.
I think since Assassin's Creed 3, they've had a burnout problem.
No, because you had Black Flag was probably the best game.
But the three, I think
popular.
three was that part where it was like we've used the same formula over and over again, and then Black Flag came out and it completely revolutionized.
People hated 3 when it first came out, but now you talk to people like 3's awesome, and I'm like, did you hate it?
I thought it was
because when
Black Flag came out, and then what was after Black Flag?
Was that
the Pharaoh game?
London?
Was it France?
Brotherhood was next, and then Rogue is somewhere in there too, which most people
Brotherhood
haven't played.
Rogue. That was when you went to Italy. That was when you were in Ezio Auditore.
Ezio Auditore di Firenze. Syndicate was the twins. No, Syndicate was France. Now I gotta look.
Anyways, there's so many Assassin's Creeds,
right?
And then Black Flag hasn't, like, or not Black Flag. What's their pirate game that they keep on showcasing and then canceling and then showing
Skull and Bones.
They got Skull and Bones that they was like sitting out in limbo. So yeah, Ubisoft needs something.
AC1, AC2, Brotherhood, Revelations.
And Brotherhood was the DLC to Assassin's Creed 2.
Revelations is the end of Ezio's story.
Yeah.
Then you go to 3, which is Connor, 4, which is Black Flag. Rogue was the one like no one's ever played. That's the one where you start out as a Templar defecting. No, like barely anyone's played it. Unity is the French one.
Got it.
Syndicate is the British one,
right?
with the twins.
Unity was really bad.
Unity started out terrible. I played it after the patch fix, and it was great.
Because I remember that was with like all the face animations were all fucked up.
That was one of the first times I met Ben, who's our other business partner, Pete. Was he was streaming that, and like the face animation was like a framework skull with eyes bulging out
and stuff.
Yeah,
and it made like it looked like our what was what's the EA game? N7.
Which one?
Oh my god, I'm like totally.
Oh, Mass Effect.
It's just like
Andromeda?
Mass Effect, Andromeda when they had their cinematic issues.
I still haven't gone back to that one. I've heard it's very fixed and worth playing now.
Yeah, it's much better now apparently.
And then after Syndicate, you started into the current era, which is Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Now, Origins was great because it was a departure from the series. You had the new combat system and everything. Odyssey was a continuation of that with a huge world. I think Odyssey might have been one of the best AC games. And then Valhalla was like all of those ideas mashed together in a terrible way. And I'm a Viking guy. Like, I was excited. So it was just kind of a letdown. So yeah, they have it. And Far Cry 6 was not that great either.
When you guys start playing a game that you don't like, because you guys are like video games, like is your lead, like Do you go all the way through it? Or did you get to a point where you're just like, nope, good enough. I'll go watch the cinematics on YouTube.
For
Tim, you
me,
go first.
there's definitely a point where I and I can feel it. It's either I can muster through it and I can just like, all right, I'm just gonna get it done. I just want to see how this kind of comes to an end. Or that point is, well, I'm done. And so it's like there's a point, and it's just like you can tell when the game is bad. Like I played there was a new Sherlock Holmes game that came out, and it was very like Lovecraftian, and it had a very like big Lovecraftian influence. Fun. I like Lovecraft, so like let's see how this goes. It was so boring. I lasted maybe an hour, and some other games have lasted maybe 3. But yeah, there's definitely a point where I'm just like, I'm good and I don't need closure.
Right. Do you go through and like, yeah.
It depends on the game. It depends how bad it is. And it depends, like AC, for instance, perfect example, Valhalla. I begrudgingly finished the main story. It took me forever. It was mainly because I was like not into it after a while. I refused to play the DLC, so I just spent 2 hours one day when I was sitting outside in my yard watching the DLC on YouTube, like you said. So just so I could be kept abreast of the story, which in the grand scheme of things probably meant nothing, but I'm a lore guy, so I like to know that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a game where like I couldn't even finish it. There have been games where I'm like, I can't do this. I'm sorry. Like the new Halo.
Though.
At first, I was enjoying myself. I've put like 8 hours into it, and I'm like, I don't think I can do
That was
this.
rough.
I think I'm just gonna watch it on YouTube.
I feel like a lot of people felt that way about Halo, the new Halo. Yeah.
I'll wait for a stream day. I'll just be like, all right, guys, thanks for watching today. And then I'll never go back to that game. And then a month later, they're like, hey, when are you going to finish that game? I'm like, I don't know when I get around to it. There's all these other games to play.
Like I said, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings guy. Shadow of Mordor, some of my favorite games. When I saw that they were making this Gollum game, I was like, this is going to suck. No one has ever had a power fantasy about being Gollum when they think about Lord of the Rings. I don't know why we think that making that a game is a good idea. Departure from even that, and the fact that the game is completely garbage and broken on top of that, that's a game I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I have no desire to. There's no lore canon to it, so didn't even bother.
Is this a terrible time to tell you that Pete is a huge Gollum fan?
Huge Gollum fan.
No one is a huge Gollum fan.
I've been streaming it every day. No, I in fact, I was excited about it because a guy at my GameStop, good friend of mine, he was like, I can't wait for this. And I saw it and I read the reviews. I was like, oh my God, he's gonna be very upset. It is bad. So,
I don't know how they thought Gollum would be able to carry a video game.
I mean, it feels, even what I've seen of it, it feels like a 90s video game. Like it just, like the concept, like in the 90s, they would have made Gollum, right? If they could have, right? And we would have played it and it would have been fun. Maybe, I don't know. But today, geez, nope.
Yeah, because like in the 90s, there was always you expected a movie video game to drop alongside the movie. And
but
so
those
I got used
Lord
to
of the Rings movie games were some of the best video games ever made.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you, but there were some really shitty ones too, Kevin, and we still played them. Like we still played them. The Spider-Man one, oh my god, Spider-Man with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man video game, atrocious, absolutely horrendous. Played the whole thing.
The Mummy games were terrible.
Mummy games were horrendous, terrible. Played them. Harry Potter games, they were kind of rough.
It also depends too, Pete, like especially when you're a broadcaster. So the Gollum is a great example. The one broadcaster we know, Dan's Gaming, he leaned into it. He just turned it into a viral campaign of how broken the game was. So I'm scrolling through TikTok and I just see him like, he'll be in midair and it's like, you have died. Didn't hit anything, didn't fall, didn't do anything. And he just cracks up laughing. And like he leaned into it. So I get clips of now because I sit and watch them on TikTok. I get clips of him all the time doing it. So it really depends how you frame the content. But like Ko, for instance, our buddy Ko, if he hates something, within I would say an hour or two, right, Tim? And he's like, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I'm done. So thank you, for watching. We're going to move on to something new. He even went, I think it was Gollum that he was like, I'm taking down all my YouTube clips of Gollum. Like,
oh my gosh.
He wanted it erased from the existence that he ever touched the game.
Don't want to support it in any way. Yeah.
Yeah. It really depends on the game. It is what it boils down to. So But thankfully, most of the IPs out there nowadays that we love are making good games. So you have that, even though Survivor was, we were joking about what's his name? Ravix. I always forget his name. The one boss in Survivor.
Yeah, Ravis. I think it's Ravis.
Ravis?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That fight was completely broken for both me and Tim. I don't know if it was broken for you too.
No, I didn't have any problem with that actually.
I watched Anne play through that fight like 2 days ago, and it was perfect for her.
So after I killed him, he was going like this the whole time I was talking to him, and then all of a sudden he shot off into space, and I was still having a conversation, and then he came back and his body was on the floor, and then when I spawned into like the environment, he was gone. So
weird.
And Tim, you had something similar, right, with him?
Yeah.
So
that's yeah.
Oh well. So it all depends. Okay, the meat and potatoes that everyone wants to talk about. Ahsoka. So Empire released a meaty ass article about Ahsoka, as they do before every Disney Plus show comes on. Actually, before we even dive into that, so Katie Sackhoff was at one of the Fan Expo events this weekend. Our buddy Katie.
She was in Philly.
Good friend Katie.
Yep.
And is that where it was? It was in Philly.
Yep.
That's your neck of the woods.
Yes.
She said she visited the set of Ahsoka and will not confirm or deny that she was in Ahsoka.
Of course,
which I find very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense given Disney and how they story
It's the
tell.
Mandoverse. Why would it's the Mandoverse? Of course, they're going to have crossover. They need to have crossover. It's like we know that there's Mando season 4. We know that's in the works, and so for them to have some type of tie in there to keep Mando and like all of like his friends like relevant throughout the story, like of course they're gonna cross in somewhere. And for them to lead in on Katie has definitely with Bo's character has become like this female like heavy protagonist. Like she's definitely like I feel like leading the charge now with Mando, and for her to be involved with Ahsoka makes perfect sense. Like of course they'd have like she's going through like this really interesting time where she's rebuilding an entire society and a planet, and for her to cross paths with Ahsoka when you have this massive threat of Thrawn at your doorstep. I hate saying that so much, but you've got Thrawn on your doorstep ready to cause chaos. Like of course you go looking for any ally that you could, and so Bo-Katan sounds like a great person to have by your side. So for her to be in that makes total sense to me.
Well, you got the Moff Gideon connection as well, right? So you got I mean it's all right there. I think it totally makes sense. I think what's interesting too is after Book of Boba Fett had 2 Mandalorian episodes in it, question then becomes 2.5. Question becomes like, are people going to know now that they have to watch all this stuff? And I think if Bo is on the show, they're in an interesting marketing position right now because a lot of people love Bo-Katan. Like, kids love Bo-Katan. My son
loves Bo-Katan.
Yep. When I unboxed my clone trooper helmet, and I was like, "So who's your favorite clone?" And he's like, "Well, she's not a clone, but it's." And he pointed to the Bo helmet. So I was like, "All right, that's cool." So from a marketing perspective, throw her in there. But it's the internet's just not happy unless they're not happy. So it's going to be interesting.
I love your take on unhappy people.
He's a shill, Tim. Come on, he's a self-proclaimed shill.
I love your tweets. I just wake up in the morning and I get a good chuckle.
Yeah, I don't know why I do. I know why I do it because it gets a little bit of an outlet. No, but there's just
therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic. But I think she was there, and I think I heard that Brendan Wayne was on set as well.
I read that too.
So you're gonna have Mando there. And by the way, not to derail us, but can we just give Pedro Pascal a voice credit and not a credit for being in Mando for that season? I mean, I love Pedro not like everybody else. Jeez, he's an idol now to people. I don't get that. No offense, but he was just the voice. We got to remember that he was just literally just the voice.
He always has been. That's the other thing. People need to understand. Like it's not like this is a new thing. He has only been the voice of Mando, except in the one scene where he took his 2 scenes where he took his helmet off.
Yep.
So yes, the two other actors who play Din Djarin should be
Is
on
there
equal
3
footing.
altogether? Doesn't he have
There's-
like 3 body double or like body
I
stand?
thought he has 2. Is it 3?
I only know of 2. They had 2 on stage.
I could have sworn there was a third one.
Lateef Crowder and Brendan Wayne. God, I gotta
Who
get that
is
more.
John
I
Wayne's
should know his
son.
name. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is so cool. And he's the guy who does more of the gunslinging stuff.
Yes.
And then
Yeah,
the
he's-
other guy does more of the like mixed martial arts, like hand-to-hand combat stuff, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense. You're both 100% correct. She did mention too before we dive into Ahsoka that there's a deleted scene where her and Din kiss when they have the conversation. Where he's like, "I'm gonna follow you." So, did they delete it because they're not interested in going down that road, or did they delete it because they're saving that for the future of the franchise?
There was so much sexual tension building up to that scene. Oh, why'd they leave it in there? Come on. That would have been so good. Okay, so the reason why I think they should have left it in there is because we've been saying that from the beginning. Like Mando, the Mandalorian could be anyone. It's not just Din Djarin. It could be Bo-Katan. It should be Bo-Katan now. Like when he said, "I give you my sword," like I talked about this in another episode. That is him stepping down as the Mandalorian, and Bo-Katan became the Mandalorian.
Yep.
So like for me, like I think that's still, and that would have been beautiful too, because like that makes like the family whole. Like then like you've got Grogu, you've got Din, and you have Bo, and like there's been this like motherly like attraction to Grogu from Bo, and so like that would have worked out so well. I would have loved that.
Yeah. And why not do that? I think it would be great. I'm okay with them cutting the kiss out because I think it allows them to kind of extend that tension just a little bit. But I mean, somebody pointed out on one of the social medias somewhere that in different episodes of season 4, Grogu started out in the back of the cockpit, and by the end he moved up. Yeah, so
he's in her lap.
Yeah, so she loves him. She'll take him on as her stepchild, and so does she then become Din Bo-Katan, or does she become Bo? does he become Din Katan?
I think he has to take her name.
Yeah. That would be wild. But yeah, I love the concept. And I think they'll work toward that in some way or another. So
need a good Star Wars love story that isn't some odd episode 9 one.
And it doesn't end horribly.
It.
Yeah. Doesn't end like in tragedy.
Yeah, if we can have 2 people be alive for their love story.
Yeah, or not just having some just terrible marriage being showcased in front of the entire galaxy. Oh my God. The stuff that Leia and Han had to go through was terrible. Broke up. It was shit.
Yep.
Rough one.
Yeah.
So the Empire article then went on to give us some information, and I read it. So if there's other stuff you guys want to talk about, I don't know if you both have read it,
I haven't read
but
it.
just pop it in here. But the main points that I picked out was Dave said Ahsoka's a wanderer at the beginning of the show. Now we know Ahsoka to be a wanderer, but I think we've all been curious as to like what's the starting point of the show? Like where do we leave off? So we know it's post Rebels, and we know it's around the time of the Mandalorian. So 4 to 5 years.
People are assuming that it's picking up right around where we leave off in Rebels.
Yep.
Because there is an image that was released not like a couple days ago, and it is the exact same setup with like this almost scene for scene of how they ended at the last part of Rebels.
Yep.
And it's after episode 6. So it
could that be a live action flashback to the end of Rebels?
No, I think that's the beginning of the first episode.
Yeah, and you know what I wonder too is, where does it take place? Does it have? So Mando takes place what, like 9 years after the Battle of Endor?
4 to 5
years.
5 years after 6.
Right. I was getting Kenobi mixed up because it was 9 years after episode 3. Right. So 5 or 6 years later, we really have no idea where Rebels ended. All we know is, it's got to be about 5 or 6 years.
So it's right around the exact same time, because the last scene that we get when Ahsoka's
Hera's
like
kid.
they're gonna go off. It's right. They say it says after the fall of the Death Star, like after Death Star 2 blows up or whatever. So you would and Hera's kid's like 5 or 6 by that point.
Right.
So
Okay.
you would assume it's right around that exact same time.
I would love it if it starts at that moment.
When they make the decision to go off and find Ezra.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we've seen
Which
I was just saying,
Sabine is, well, they said in the article, Sabine feels obligated. That is the exact word they used to find
in that
Ezra.
shot. Sabine has the short hair from the show,
Yep.
Right.
But then in other shots, we have Sabine with long hair.
right.
So is it going to be like we do like a live action, like here, we're going to set everything up, and then like 2 years later?
Well, so here's the thing. Sabine's hair is long in a picture of her looking at that hologram of Ezra.
Right.
So here's my headcanon, which worst possible thing to do, because then I'll be, disappointed because I'm wrong. I'm never really too disappointed. But I feel like she, as part of her, like she's looking at that hologram.
Yeah.
Ahsoka shows up and she's like, all right, I'm a warrior again, and cuts her hair and goes, and it's like, all right, uses a vibra blade or whatever, zip, pulls it off, and then
Lightsaber.
ready to go. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think we're gonna see like a little bit before the end of Rebels, and we'll pick up right at that end of Rebels with Ahsoka the White coming down.
Do you think there's a Ahsoka the White? I love that. Do you think that there's with Sabine specifically, the Moff Gideon story playing into Sabine being involved in this? Like, we know that Mandalorians have now taken back Mandalore. Moff Gideon held it. He had the dark saber. I'm sure word gets around the galaxy. Is that going to play into it with Sabine at all?
Yeah, I mean, Sabine trained to use the dark saber and then gave it up as sort of, a sense of obligation in a way. And then, so maybe that's why Bo-Katan shows up. Maybe there's some sort of, it'd be great for her to kind of face her and talk to her about it. Like, hey, you lost this dark saber that I gave to you. But yeah, I think that there's, I thought the Gideon thing was going to go on longer, and there was going to be that direct connection to Sabine trying to get it back from him. But
I mean,
the thing that I could see is that Bo could come and trying to recruit leaders of the different houses. Yeah. So technically Sabine is leader of House Wren. Yeah. I think she's like the last living. We technically don't know what happened to her mom.
Right.
So I mean, like maybe she wants her to come back and lead House Wren or help recruit. Like that could be a possibility as well. I don't know. The one thing with Gideon though is like what happened. So Rebels ends right before Death Star happens. So it's right before right before A New Hope. It's right before A New Hope, but is it before Rogue One? So it's before Rogue One. So it ends right before Rogue One, and then we pick it up right after Empire. So like there's this whole time where like the Tears of a Thousand Suns, like that happened. All of that, like the glassing of Mandalore happened while Sabine was off planet. Yeah. So like I would love to know, like, did you know that it happened? What was going on during that time? What was she doing? Was she just freedom fighting?
Good question. Yeah, was she part of the Rebel Alliance? Because yeah, that's a great question.
There's a lot that happens between, like, for the Rebels, like for our crew of merry pirates, like a lot that happens.
We also have what's her face, who we thought might be the armor, floating out in the ether somewhere.
Oh yeah,
what's her name? Rook
Cast.
Rook something.
Yeah.
Rook Cast.
Yeah, I thought that she was going to be the armor. It wasn't her.
Just floating out there somewhere, because those Mandalorian troopers were not Mandalorians, clearly.
Right.
So her and her crew's still floating out there somewhere.
And is Gideon really dead? I hope so. It
was a clone. It was 100% a clone. Look
the
at
mustache, Pete.
The mustache theory.
Come on.
I hope he's dead. I mean, but
it was like, I'm gonna be honest though, like it was a little anticlimactic to see him go like that. And like we went back and forth. We talked about like, okay, if he was in Beskar armor, how did he just like incinerate? And we were going back and forth with that. A lot of really interesting theories as to how he died.
Yeah.
So I would love to, I don't know, I'd love to see them kind of like bring that back up, or at least bring Giancarlo back for even like a flashback, because it's so that character's so interesting. I don't feel like he had enough time to really give it the life that it deserved. Because like why was he so tied to Mandalore? This guy had a hard on for Mandalore. He wanted to be Mandalorian so badly, and he just was unable to achieve it. Why?
I think it was just an obsession.
But why? Where did the obsession come from? I would love to know more.
It was probably a power thing. Like the people that can't be conquered were conquered type of situation. That would be my guess. But a flashback would be, flashback would be interesting. But I mean, he could be dead because the introduction of the Shadow Council was like, oh, here's your can of worms. You now have a bunch of new enemies to fight.
Yep.
So, which made me happy. Don't get me wrong. And some of the characters in there that we knew already were just a perfect drop.
Super cool.
Balin Scroll confirmed to be a former Jedi who survived Order 66 and is now a mercenary for hire, which Tim is about to say. How many Jedi survived Order 66? Because every time we have a new one survive, he says the same exact thing. There's a lot of Jedi in the galaxy, Tim. So I'm just going to say that again. They're scattered all over. Not all of them could be killed by a clone in that moment. So it makes sense that there'd be a ton that survived, in my opinion.
I don't like storytelling loopholes.
But look at the High Republic. They're scattered all over the place. They're all doing work elsewhere. Like, not all of them were fighting in the Clone Wars.
I understand that, but you can't showcase a mass genocide, and then you can't go and say in episode 4, you're all that's left. Like,
but if you have tens of thousands of them, the idea that a couple hundred survived is not out of the question.
Okay, when you have an entire legion of Jedi hunters at your disposal, like I feel like we're getting into this like slippery slope of just like just pick and choose who lives and dies. Like I don't know, I don't like it. I feel like it's just there's a lot of holes there. It's just gappy storytelling.
I'm literally torn because, like, on the one side, I love that we're getting interesting and cool Jedi characters that are coming through. But yeah, it does. I mean, as an OT child, the lore of Luke being the last of the, when God am I, the last of the Jedi you will be. Now, the headcanon that I'm working on with that is that what he means is the last sort of trained Jedi, the last one to continue on. Because, I mean, if you're still alive in the Mandoverse era, you were pretty young when Order 66 happened. So, yeah, I don't know. But I'm enjoying. I haven't not enjoyed any of the Jedi stories we've gotten, so I'm kind of okay with it.
Apparently, Shock T is alive.
Yeah, even
like how many times have we seen her die? She has died so many times.
Scenes. All deleted scenes.
In deleted scenes or in video games, or like I was playing what's the Starkiller game? Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed. I was like, oh, here we go. Shock T gets to die again in another video game. So it's just like it's so funny, but she's coming back. Yeah, Shock T and some of the other Twi'lek Jedi, the blue skinned Twi'lek. She's alive.
Paul said it. Mace is alive, so
no.
I just do that to annoy him.
But there's the problem. At what point are they dead? Because they're all supposed to be dead, and now they're just kind of trickling them all back in here. So it's just like,
I mean, the Emperor didn't die. That kind of set a bad standard there too. Somehow he came back to him. Somehow.
Yeah, but the problem is how. But the general fandom doesn't understand, and this is my problem with Star Wars storytelling. You just have to trust us. Let us cook. 20 years from now, you'll finally understand. All right, we promise. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I love Star Wars so much, but man, it's so hard to follow along. Again, back to the whole I wish we just had one timeline kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know.
So the last big nugget that I pulled from the Empire article is this mysterious Inquisitor.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a shock because there's not supposed to be any more Inquisitors either. They're also supposed to be gone.
The one that has the motorbike.
No, look in
the black helmet and whatnot.
Yeah, he looks like Snake Eyes.
Yes, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
and he has an Inquisitor's lightsaber.
Yeah, he's got the cool lightsaber blade.
So is this a reveal of someone we already know, or is this just somehow this Inquisitor survived and is maybe still working for the Empire?
Well, if the Jedi can't die, then maybe the Inquisitors are still alive. Maybe the Grand Inquisitor didn't die.
Oh God, but it's quite possible. I mean, look, we were just joking about how, hey, we thought all the Jedi were dead, but apparently there's still a ton out there. Well, maybe Thrawn has his own Inquisitors, and he's like, they're still out there, they're still getting in my way, so go out and find them. So maybe that's it, or it's just going to be. It could be. I wonder if it's that. Well, no, the one that looked like there was the same style of Inquisitor armor in Rebels, but that one died, right? So, but we just talked about nobody's ever dead. So I don't know. I'm hoping
it kind of does look like the second sister with her, like the helmet is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know. And again, this is the whole thing we were asking before. You know, what is the Acolyte going to be about? What's Ahsoka going to be about? Again, who knows? Like, I think we're all, and this is why Star Wars has problems online and social media and from fans. Every single time we go in and we're like, okay, Ahsoka, like, ask the three of us to write down what we think Ahsoka is going to be, put it in an envelope. All three of us will have three completely different yet related stories, and they'll all be very wrong. And that's, I mean, Mando, when Mandalorian ended episode 1, season 1 with the baby Yoda, that was it. We're like, all right, everything's out the window. Everything we thought the show was going to be is out the window. So I don't know. I mean, the good news is Dave, this is all written by Dave. This entire series is written by Dave.
Yeah.
And he is going to keep his lore on track. Like, I didn't love what was done with Book of Boba Fett. I mean, it was fun. But of all the series, it's my least favorite so far.
Agreed.
Yep, same.
But that's, I think, because Dave and John were sort of sidelined on that, not by their own choice, right? So, with Dave running this, Dave is so protective of everything, and I've said it before, especially about Clone Wars and Rebels. There's not a single wasted frame in anything he does. Everything happens for a reason. Every character shows up for a reason. Jack Black and Lizzo are there for a reason. I still don't know why, but they're there for a reason.
Just awesome. I think they were there just to be amazing. I think they were so cool.
Bother me at all.
I loved them.
But yeah,
celebrities want to be in Star Wars. That's
where we are now. Yeah.
Needs to understand. Like, Daniel Craig is an uncredited stormtrooper. I think it's in The Force Awakens. Just because he was filming across and he was like, "Yo, can you get me on set?" Celebrities want to be in Star Wars, so like, suck it up and deal with it. That pop culture respects your fandom. Like,
well, and
it was a point for me.
It was very funny. You saw all that bullshit online about it, and when I watched that episode with my 10-year-old, he's like, "Is that Jack Black? Is that Lizzo?" And I was like, "Yeah," and his response was, "Cool." That was it. Like, all right, good. Yeah, he wasn't like, "I pulled out of the show, I can't watch it. What's going on?" It is what it is. So, but where I'm going with that is, I think I'm doing my absolute best to not overthink Ahsoka, because I think Dave's going to do some wild things with it. I'm hoping World Between Worlds isn't used. A lot of people are saying, I mean, it's kind of in the graphics for the show. So, but if you told me about World Between Worlds before I saw it in Rebels, I would have been like, no, don't do that. But now it works. It works really well. So I'm really trying to go in sort of open-minded, but I think it's an Inquisitor that's left over from the Empire that's still doing the same job, going after all these Jedi that the three of us are like, they're still out there. So it kind of makes sense from that regard.
Could it be someone like a Jedi that survived, someone else we don't know them, that happened to find maybe the Fortress Inquisitorius or something, and like found this stuff and is now out there? Kind of like the Acolyte theory you have, Tim, where it's someone searching for Sith relics across. Like, maybe this Force user was drawn to the dark side in this way, and that's how they ended up there. Because again, all the Inquisitors are supposed to be dead by this point.
No, they don't look like this. This character doesn't look cool enough to give him a backstory like that. Like,
So
I'm
it's
serious.
just-
I'm serious. That Inquisitor fight, that looks like a fight that's going to happen and it's going to be done. Like
My only other theory is that whatever Inquisitors were left over after Vader and Palpatine were turned into assassins for the Shadow Council at this point.
I think that's going to be your tie-in somewhere. Is that is going to be an asset of the Shadow Council or of Thrawn. I like your Thrawn idea, and I was kind of mulling that around. Is that like Thrawn having his own set of Jedi hunters because he was friends with Vader would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, what if Thrawn, in traveling with Ezra, realizes that the Jedi threat is still very real? If Kanan's was out there, if Ezra's out there, they know they're out there. Maybe he invests in keeping the Inquisitors around. And the Inquisitors didn't die when the Empire ended, so they're still out there looking for work. So maybe Thrawn picked them up, put them to work, go find some Jedi.
And then we go down the dark rabbit hole of what good does that do for the Ascendancy? Nothing.
Right.
And that's why I'm so mad about this whole Heir to the Empire poll. Kevin, I'm just like, the more we go into this, the more I don't understand what they're doing with Thrawn's character.
When we go on your show, Pete,
yes,
if you really want a triggering topic,
yes,
you just found it.
All right.
Heir to the Empire Thrawn and the new Thrawn that Timothy Zahn has written, they conflict. They don't make any sense. And so if they're going to pull all of reference material from Heir to the Empire of Thrawn, then what was the whole point of Timothy Zahn writing 6 books to give Thrawn a backstory to get you to Rebels? I don't understand.
I think they're going to use Heir to the Empire as the bones of the story. And I think, again, in Dave we trust, I think he's going to make sure that those things connect. But again, I mean, he did kind of throw out some of the pieces of the Ahsoka book for the Tales of the Jedi, right? So
the Ahsoka book was so interesting.
Where's the yeah, I feel the same. The question then becomes like, I mean, what's the levels of canon? But I think he could do it. I think he can do something with the bones of the story. I think it's more related to some of the dark Empire stuff as well. But
it's just the Chiss are so interesting, and like Thrawn is our first big introduction into a whole new world. And like Timothy Zahn wrote out 3 books that explain the Chiss people in a way that I would never like. It's essentially the Game of Thrones of Star Wars.
Yep.
Like there's so much going on in the Ascendancy, and we get given this whole awesome backstory, and then we're being told that they're pulling from like Heir to the Empire, which is cool, which is great. But Thrawn in that book is all about the Empire. He's all about the Emperor, glory to the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But in the newer books, he's all about doing everything for the Ascendancy and the glory to the Ascendancy. And so like I'm so confused as to like what's Thrawn's play here. The Grisk are an amazing bad guy that we get introduced to, but we're still yet to actually like see them at all or hear anything about them outside of these Thrawn books. And that's a big focus in Thrawn book 2 when he goes with Vader out to Batuu. Like they're actually fighting the Grisk. So we're not there. They're there.
Maybe there's something about it that ends up getting pulled toward the Ascendancy. Maybe there's some reveal that it's this whole dark. I think there's going to be a connection because, again, I also feel like since the Emperor is always playing the long game, he's not gonna put up with Thrawn's shenanigans, right? He's not going to put
over
up. Yeah, but I feel like he's playing a long game. I feel like there's a disconnect there that needs to be like, and push him out back to the unknown regions or something. I don't know. Just give us a good story.
I could talk about Thrawn all day. I love Thrawn. He is like my favorite Star Wars character.
Well, hopefully we talk about that on Pete's show. But
yes, we'll bring you on and we'll talk Thrawn. Let's do that.
I'm excited about Ahsoka. I'm stoked. I think it's going to all the early screenings and stuff folks have seen have literally said it's one of the best shows that they've ever produced. So I think maybe this could potentially be better than Mandalorian season 1, which blew us all away when it first came out. I'm not saying it's the best season of Mandalorian, the best thing put out, but what happened when Mandalorian season one came out, we were all like blown away. It could be an experience like that. We'll find out in
They've
August.
learned so much too. I mean, look at like how we felt with
that's
like
what I'm
Andor
thinking.
coming out. Andor.
Yeah.
We've learned so much. So to use all of that and throw it into Ahsoka, chef kiss.
Chef kiss. Pete, where can folks who want to hear more of you find you on the internet?
You can follow me on Twitter at ATGcast, or you can, to get all my hot takes and things that Tim was referencing earlier.
I love them. They're great.
I am a little bit of a pot stirrer at times, but you can also go to the sswnetwork.com to find all of our shows, our Connect, which is our live Friday night show, which is also on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at the SSW Network. And yeah, you can find we have that's probably the best place to go. So go to the website, find the links there, find the socials. But yeah, follow me on atgcast.com, at atgcast, and you'll get all the goodies. So
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, make sure you go over there. You hit the follow button. Check them out on Friday nights. I've popped into a few of them. I haven't said anything, Pete. I'm sorry.
That's
Usually,
all right.
like, children aggro, but I've just come to hang out. And then you can check out Tim. He's fb.gg/darkness429, probably streaming Diablo for the foreseeable future until something else comes up. But I don't see anything else that's going to come up in the foreseeable future.
Armored Core 6 at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Diablo. So
it's Elden Ring, but with robots. Like, how could you not?
I don't like Elden Ring. fb.gg/darkness429. I play video games for fun. I don't like to get my shit pushed in when I got home from work after getting my shit pushed in all day.
You know you're still alive, Kevin.
Yeah. So it's the same reason I won't play hardcore Diablo. No offense, Paul, because it's just like I don't want to put time into it and then feel like a complete failure at home after I've had a long day of work. So
mental health.
Yeah. So plus when I died fighting the boss in that Temple of the Primevals, I would have been pissed because I was level 41 and I would have thrown someone through a window. So yeah, Tim is fb.gg/darkness429, darkness429 everywhere on the internet. If you want to check out everything I'm doing, go to raredrop.co or buy a ticket at GCX. It's probably the best way to do it, gcxevent.com/tickets. But if you want to yell at me, Kevin X Vision on Twitter, probably will just like your post and move on because I don't do Twitter anymore. I just let Pete handle all of the shitters. And I'm KMagic101 on Instagram. That's a place I probably will respond to you. So thank you so much for watching. We're Star Wars and Scotch. Star Wars and Scotch everywhere on the internet. Star Wars and Scotch or Star Wars Scotch, no matter where you go. We have a profile. You can follow it there. We have 2 YouTube channels, one for shorts, one for full episodes. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, all the places. Rate, review, subscribe. It helps us immensely. But until we see you again, Timmy.
May the force be with you.
Always.